Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Coloritaville. And today I am going to do a color and chat. I believe this is going to be my first true color and chat since I've started back really creating videos. So I'm really excited about that. Bear with me. You know, it's a little odd to talk to the camera when nobody's around to chat back. So it's just me and you. So grab a glass of tea or a cup of coffee and let's just spend some time together. As you can see, I've hurt my finger again. Do you guys remember back last year when the callus or writer's bump on my finger got really irritated? Yeah, it's like that again. So I've got that wrapped up here. So that's what's going on. It's kind of owie. It's always big, but it's inflamed right now. So that's been on there since I was a kid. And every so often it just gets really inflamed. And I think it's from, you know, being so heavy-handed with my writing instruments. And lately I've been coloring a lot using different types of mediums that I'm not very familiar with, especially like the old water-based pens, which are, you know, tend to be thinner. And yeah, I think I pressed really hard down on that, and pushing that in, it's got it all inflamed and irritated, but that's okay. You know, just overlook it. That needs to be there to give me that padding. Otherwise, I really can't color much right now. So yeah, and I'm going to color, you know that. So today I decided to work in my Jane F Hankins book. This is Friends from My Imaginary World. This is the book that is the 9x12 print. So this one's available for $19.99 in her shop or on Amazon. So that'll be linked down in the description in case you're interested in that. And I chose this picture. And, you know, after doing the canvas painting or the canvas colorings the other day, I realized I'm like, I really haven't colored in my Jane F Hankins books in quite some time. So I thought, you know, hey, that would be a neat little thing. I'll just kind of color it. Something I really do want to do was to color one of her pages. And yeah, I'll do that with you guys. I generally get pretty nervous when I'm on camera and trying to color. So sometimes I want to color easy things that I don't really care too much if they get messed up or if they're not the way I want them. But this is actually something I do want to turn out decent, you know, and it's something I can enjoy. And that's what I've decided to do with my color and chats moving forward, is I want to be able to find things that I personally really want to color. And I think if maybe if I really find things that, you know, truly interest me, that I'm really into the idea of sitting down and coloring, that I'll be able to do more color and chats, number one. Get more comfortable on camera. That's number two. That's, you know, a thing. I've made so many videos, but I am so camera shy. It generally takes me several minutes of sitting with my camera ready to rock and ready to roll. And then I have to talk myself up to it. I mean, I sit there, I sip on my drink and all that kind of stuff. Just trying to get that courage to say, okay, hit the record button, let's go. So as you can see, I worked up that courage. So we're going to do this. And I do, oh gosh, I love the Jane F Hankins books. So anyway, how is everyone? I hope that everyone is doing really well. I know that this has been, oh goodness gracious, a crazy year for everybody. I would like to hope that soon things will get back to normal. But, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I was one of the people in the very beginning of all this who kind of said, oh, you know, everybody hang in there. When it gets hot this summer, everything's going to be okay. And apparently that was not the case. But that's kind of what I thought. And that's just speaking on the coronavirus because, you know, Gary and my son Michael are both in the medical field. And, you know, our doctor also, who we had kind of, you know, who my husband actually has a working relationship with also. And, everybody kind of come to the conclusion that, that's why you don't have as many flus, in the summertime, is because viruses don't do well in heat. As you know, for many, many years, that's how we actually kept things clean, as we would boil them or put them in alcohol, things like that. But heat has always been known as like a natural way to keep things clean and sanitized. So, maybe I thought wrong. So I don't know. Here we sit now in September. So summer's over. And, the cases are still there, and I don't know. So, I kind of wanted to focus, what I was chatting about today on the things that have went on in my life and in the world since 2020 began, and maybe even a little before 2020 began. I'm going to be taking little breaks here and there to take sips of my drink. My throat is very irritated from, I guess, the allergens that are coming out in the fall. My neighbors also let their grass get like thigh high, and then they came in and cut it, and it took them like 2 days because it was so thick and it took so long. And that just has my allergies just absolutely torn up. So try to bear with me. I'm going to have to take frequent breaks to take sips and things like that. Okay, so I would like to say that 2020 began for me on January 1st, 2020. And I think now when we say 2020, from here well into the future, I really believe that 2020 is going to almost be a term that we throw around to say, how jacked up is that? Oh, it's 2020. So, so when I say, I wish I could say that my 2020 started on January 1st, that's not the case. Truthfully, my 2020 started shortly after Christmas, really and truly about New Year's Eve. So I guess it was kind of January, but not. And actually, yeah, I guess it was New Year's Eve. So on New Year's Eve, that's December 31st this year, Gary got off work that morning, and we were scheduled to go to Jordan's house. He lives in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Well, he lives in Hope Mills, North Carolina, or Fayetteville, North Carolina, near Fort Bragg. He is stationed at Fort Bragg. So our intent was, Gary got off that morning. I had everything packed, ready to go. We were taking the puppy dogs with us, and we were just going to jump in the car and take off and go. When he got home from work, he gets home from work about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. He works 24-hour shifts as a firefighter. So when he got home that morning, he told me, he goes, and I talked to him the night before, and he seemed kind of okay, pretty much. I mean, maybe a few little allergy issues, whatever, but anybody who knows Gary knows that he has allergies 12 months out of the year. It's definitely not a seasonal thing. So, I was like, okay. And he came home that morning, and he's kind of like, I don't feel real well. And I was like, oh no. And he goes, oh, no, we can go. That's fine. He goes, I don't think it's anything. I just think it's my allergy sinuses. I'm going to take some medicine, and we're going to go from there. I said, okay, great. Let's do this. So he came in and he took some medicines and things, got the last few things that he needed together. And we got the pups and hopped in the car and took off for our long drive to Hope Mills. It's about a 5.5 hour drive, probably. So we got, I'd say an hour and a half up the road after leaving home. And he announces to me, he's starting to cough at this point. And I'm like, are you sure you're okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And, about an hour and a half into this, he starts saying, my throat's getting really sore. And I'm like, probably the drainage and everything. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. So we keep traveling on. About 2 hours in, we decided, okay, let's grab some lunch. By that point, it's probably about 11, because we were a little late leaving because of everything that, he had to do, take medicines, things like that. So it's probably about 11 o'clock, and we stop north of Atlanta because, we definitely want to make sure we got through all the major traffic and things like that. So we're way north of Atlanta, and we decided to stop and get a bite to eat. So we didn't want, of course, to go in anywhere and lose time. So we just stopped at a McDonald's to hit their drive-through. We were going to get the chicken nuggets, and because I think they were like 20 for $4 or 20 for $5 or something like that. So we were just going to get some chicken nuggets, just something to put on our stomach, and also some little something that we could, hand back and let the dog snack on. Because for all of you who have fur babies at home, you know that you just can't eat unless you feed them, at least not pleasantly. So we got that. And, we went to the restroom and all those kind of things. And by the time all this gets done, Gary gets back into the car and, we're trying to eat and give the dogs food and some water, of course. And then he tells me, he's like, I don't feel well. And I was like, you feel worse? And he's like, yeah. He said, feel my forehead. I feel like I'm getting feverish. I was like, okay. So I felt, and he was indeed a little warm. So at that point, he kind of started complaining a little bit about it being a little chilly in the car. So, and anybody who knows Gary also knows that he rides in a car with the AC full blast. So that was really odd for him to say, okay, I'm cold. So by that point, I'm going, oh, this is just wonderful. And we still really haven't, because it's very mild. It's not very much of a fever, and we really haven't started equating this to anything at this point. Thank goodness there had not been an outbreak of COVID-19 in the United States at that point. I know that they believe it was already present, but thank goodness it wasn't mainstream, or by this point I would have been in a panic. So anyway, we continue this trip. By the time we get to North Carolina, there's a couple things that we need to pick up. Gary needs some more allergy medicine, things like that, because he had left his medicine at home, and he also wanted to get some cough syrup and, things that he thought might make him more comfortable. So we run into the local Walmart there in Hope Mills, and of course, Jordan's anxiously awaiting our arrival, and so I'm, texting with him and letting him know we're at Walmart, we'll be there soon. And, by the time Gary gets out of there, he's starting to look peaked. And I was like, oh boy, just, oh boy. So, we're like, okay. And we get to Jordan's house, and we have, she's getting some things together for, it's going to kind of be not really so much a quote unquote dinner, but more of a finger foods kind of thing. It's New Year's Eve. But she has different kinds of like meatballs and all kinds of different things to eat. Gary managed to eat just a little, and he went to bed right then. He just went to bed. He's like, I feel terrible. I need to go lay down. I think I'll feel better in the morning. So I'm like, oh, this is horrible, So he lays down, and of course, the evening goes on. They have some friends over, things like that, and we are having some drinks. It's New Year's Eve, right? So I'm going to be honest. Generally, I can handle my alcohol pretty well. And, I had jokingly said to my, daughter-in-law that you're going to hold my hair tonight while I vomit. And she's like, okay. And so, that was all just joking. Because I like I said, I generally handle alcohol pretty well. I've learned as I've gotten older, I've learned when to say when. How they always push that in different commercials and things like that. Know when to say when. Well, believe me, as I started getting a little age on me, hangovers were not fun anymore. So I learned when to say when. So I was really fine. We had, a couple drinks, and give me just a second. And I had, what I was doing is I was actually making small margaritas. That's like margaritas are my vice. Okay. hence the name Coloritaville for the channel, play off Jimmy Buffett, love it kind of thing. So I was making some little margaritas, and I wasn't even making them very strong at all. I was using silver tequila, which always sits better on my stomach than gold tequila. And before midnight, I literally I started feeling so nauseous. I was like, there's no way I'm not drunk. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not even really seriously buzzing. But I feel horrible. I'm nauseous. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, gotta go. So I ran to the bathroom. There I was at about 11:40, throwing up like crazy. And Leah's outside smoking a cigarette with her friends and hanging out there. And I think Jordan was still in the house at that time, because I think he stayed in when he saw me run to the bathroom like that. And I come out and Jordan's like, Mom, are you okay? I'm like, oh my God. And immediately Jordan's like, well, you shouldn't have drank so much. You know, you can't even make it till midnight. I'm like, son, I really didn't drink that much. And I don't think he really believed me, but I knew. I was like, there's no way. And I just felt horrible. From that point on, I was like, I am so sick. And it did almost feel like that sick you get when you have drank too much and you're just no longer in the party. You're there, but you're really not there. So, you know, midnight rang in, and right before midnight rang in, Leah had came inside and she realized that I was like peaking sick. And she's like, Mom, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, you know, no. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm okay. I'm here. I'm fine, but I'm so sick. And she said, did you throw up already? And she's like, I'm so sorry I wasn't there. And I'm like, Leah, sweetie, I didn't throw up because of alcohol. I don't know what's going on with me. And of course, I don't even think she necessarily believed that at that point. But luckily, shortly after midnight, because everybody had pretty much been at her house for a long time by that point anyhow. So her other guests kind of needed to get home. They had things to take care of, you know, at their place also. So it kind of quieted down probably by, I would say by 1:30, the house was silent. And I didn't even feel like going to bed. It was that bad. I did not feel like getting up and walking into the bedroom that they had given us to sleep in. I felt horrible. It was really, really bad. So I just laid down on the couch, and Jordan was on, well, actually I was on the love seat, and Jordan was playing video games on the couch, and that's where he ended up falling asleep too. But I had dozed off, and then I woke up probably about 3:30, and I had developed the worst headache. I mean, my head was boom, 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 you know, pounding. And, you know, the first thing I thought is there's no stinking way, because anybody who has ever drank a little to excess knows that headaches come along with that. When, you know, a hangover is basically dehydration, and dehydration will cause bad headaches and a host of other symptoms. So, you know, I was like, there's just no way. I didn't drink that much. I just didn't. And, you know, of course, Gary is in there. He's, and I have no idea how sick he is in just the next room. I have no clue how sick he is. So I got up, and it kind of, you know, got Jordan jostled a little bit. He heard me up, and what I was, you know, kind of looking for was I needed to get something to drink, and I was trying to figure out where Gary had put the medications that he had bought, because I wanted to take some ibuprofen or some Tylenol or something by that point. And I couldn't find anything. And Jordan was like, you know, Mom, what's wrong? And I said, I've got a terrible headache. And he's like, oh, you got a hangover. I was like, Jordan, it is not a hangover. Okay. It's like, there's no way. I did not drink enough for this to be a hangover. I'm going to have to put some more ink in this one. So I was like, all right. So Jordan actually had some 800 milligram prescription Motrin, and he told me where it was laying. So I got it, and I took I took two 800 milligrams because I was in some pain. I mean, I really was. And so I'm just filling this marker back up, so I know that you guys can't see right now. So I took two 800 milligram Motrins, and I got some water, and I drank like two big glasses of water because I was like, if it is, a hangover, that's the best way really to treat it other than hair of the dog. And I was too nauseous to try that. And I was like, okay, so I took the medicine. I laid back down on the love seat, and the headache did ease off a little bit, and I was able to fall back asleep because I don't believe I could have even fell back asleep with the headache that I had going on. It was pretty rocking. It was bad. So I woke up several times during the night and just feeling really terrible, but I made it till morning. And as a matter of fact, I got up that morning and feeling horrible. I mean, I felt nauseous and my throat was starting to get sore, and I had started coughing some. Does this sound familiar, anybody? And of course, Gary hasn't even showed his face out of the room yet. But I got up, and there was a pretty big mess left from the night before, and I felt kind of bad about it. So I wanted to help, Leah and Jordan out. So I got up, and Jordan was out. When Jordan is asleep, oh, I'm telling you, a tornado could come straight through, and it wouldn't even bother him a bit in the world. So, I did I put the dishes in the dishwasher, cleaned the counters, threw some stuff out, things like that. Feeling terrible. But by that point, I was thinking, oh, gosh, by that point, I had figured out what was going on. Okay. I'm like, okay, whatever that loving husband of mine had, he's decided in his love for me not to let him be the only one that gets to experience this. So I was pretty sure whatever's going on with him is exactly what's going on with me. And, but by that point, I just felt really bad. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I've got to go to bed. Of course, I didn't feel like doing much of anything either. Give me a second. So I was like, okay. I ended up going in and checking on Gary, and he was really bad off. I mean, by that morning, he did feel like he had a pretty high fever, and I gave him some medications and things like that. And I told him, I said, Gary, do you think we need to go home? And he said, I don't want to ruin your visit with Jordan. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I feel bad. I feel really bad. And if you want to go home, and he's like, I can't drive. I said, I think I feel okay if we leave like soon, that I'll be able to drive this. And so he's like, still, no, I'll be fine probably tomorrow. And yeah, I'm like, okay. So the day goes on, and I don't feel any better. As a matter of fact, I continue to feel worse. The evening finally comes. Gary still has only came out of that bedroom for just a few minutes during the day, and he tried to eat dinner that night and really couldn't, which was a shame because I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was really good. So nighttime came, and I actually went and laid down in the bed that night, and within about a couple hours of laying down, the fever hit. I shook and shivered all night long. And finally morning got there, and before we even got out of bed, Gary and I were just kind of talking and things like that. And I told him, I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to get out of bed today. So he says, do you want to go home? And I was like, your window closed. Sometime during the evening, your window for that closed. I can't drive. I mean, I felt that bad and that weak at that point. I was like, I can't drive. And he says, no, I think I can. And I'm like, are you sure? And he told me, he said, I don't know what's going on, but it's pretty obvious now. We need to go see a doctor. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So we literally packed up, and before, I mean, Leah had went to work, but before Jordan even got out of bed that morning, we were gone. We, was like, love you, gotta go. We drove the 5.5, 6 hours home and didn't even come home first. Yes, we did, because we had the dogs with us. We had to come home first. So we didn't stay though. We drove here, made sure the dogs had food and water, access to the outside, and we left. And we went to the doctor's office. Luckily, our doctor doesn't close until I think 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock, something like that. It's kind of late office hours. So we were able, to get home in time to go to the doctor. That took, I think we were there for about 3 hours because they ran IV fluids and all kinds of stuff. And Gary's test came back positive for flu strain A, I believe it was. I mean, there's an A strand and a B strand, but either way, it was positive. And mine actually came back negative. But I had the exact same symptoms as him. So, my healthcare provider, we'd actually saw 2 different providers that day. But still, mine was like, what are the chances that they have different things? His test is 100% positive for flu. And, there's always the chance that my test was wrong. And she also pointed out the fact that from the time my fever started, and I really reported starting to feel really, really bad, that my test could very well, it could be too early for mine to show a positive test. So she went ahead, and it had been over, Gary had waited too long. It had been almost 48 hours for him. I was still probably at the 18-hour mark. So she put me on the antiviral for the flu. What is it? I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, she put me on that. And I'm going to be honest, I do think that I got over it faster than Gary did. I know there's a lot of people who don't like to take that, and they have a lot of different, negative opinions about taking that. But for me, I personally thought that it was a very wise choice, and I think it helped. I would definitely take it again if the need ever arose for that. So I guess moral of this is now we're at January 2. And so that's how my new year started before before the new year even really started. So it was something else, guys. I was so sick. And that was so when, when coronavirus got here and the people first started talking about, how they thought it had been in the United States for longer, maybe dating back to like November-ish time frame or whatnot. Our doctor actually got the antibodies test and was offering those. So Gary and I went and got an antibodies test because we truly at that point were not convinced that we did not have COVID. Because, oh my God, even though he had that positive flu test, we had like every symptom that people report, tightness of chest, not being able to breathe well, fever. I mean, it was, oh my goodness, at least, the early symptoms that they were telling us about in like February, March timeframe. So our antibodies were negative. So I can say this much, whatever COVID is, I don't want it, because as bad as I felt with the flu, oh, but Jesus, I can only imagine. And I know, I mean, it's not only just coronavirus. It started out freaking crazy, in this world or this year. And actually, I think maybe it was March when the first cases really started popping up here. So probably April or May when those first antibodies tests started popping up is when we had that done. But, we started the year, with Australia on fire, and I mean, I read this one Facebook post one day, and it had like, and this was a few months ago. It was when we were at like Murder Hornets, when they first started talking about that. So it kind of had everything weird that had happened, like in the world this year. And it was crazy. And I've asked several people since then, I'm like, does this many crazy things really happen every year? Or is this truly a unique year? Because this is, woo-hoo, it's, this has definitely been a year like none other. And, most people have told me, oh yeah, this kind of weird stuff happens all the time. It's just so much of it that now, or not even necessarily so much of it, but it's like, we're literally looking for crazy stuff now. So when something happens, we're latching on to that. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I think about that, but it's definitely been a insane year. And yeah, when this first started, I was pretty scared. Of course, here you couldn't get toilet paper. You couldn't, and a lot of things you still can't get. Toilet paper is pretty much back to its natural habitat. A lot of cleaning supplies still have not found their way home. But some weird things like decaf coffee has been very hard to find. So yeah, it's been nuts, and I was very much afraid when it first started. Of course, I kind of thought, I mean, truly naively, apparently, like I said at the beginning of the video, I subscribed to the idea that, oh, all we need to do is make it till summer. And well, summer came and gone. Summer has now come and gone. And here we are, still dealing with all of these cases. And, I know we all had this huge flatten the curve push. And I mean, truly, I didn't have a choice but to go out in public. However, I rarely went out in public. I would make very long lists of things that we needed because I am in a high risk group, and so is Gary. And, my parents, of course, are very, very high risk, and we live as caregivers for his mother, who would also be high risk. So I was very cautious, and we did not let our parents go anywhere. We took lists from them, and we did all of their shopping. And my camera has stopped on me, so I'm going to keep talking to you guys. There we go. We're back. If that happens and I lose the camera, just stick with me. I'll try to keep talking to you, and I'll get the camera back up as soon as I can. I have those issues sometimes periodically, and I'm not sure why. But at any rate, we did all their shopping for them, so they didn't have to go out. We did not want them to go out. I was very cautious, very, very cautious. But I was very optimistic that this was going to be a short-term thing. And then it wasn't. I mean, how else can you say that, right? It wasn't. It hasn't been. I'm not sure how I feel about everything that's went on because, of course it was, let's close things down. And then you had people saying, well, you're ruining small business. And then you had the side that was saying, well, we're taking care of, our vulnerable. And then, then there was the whole, we're going to crash the economy. So, I really don't know where I stood on that. But as summer began and, the cases were still there, it's when I did have to kind of look at it from the idea that, maybe we can't do this because we are like bankrupting some businesses and things like that. And the truth of the matter is, Walmart, none of them places ever shut down, grocery stores. And I'm like, I don't know. And it started to kind of seem like a situation where big box stores, I think I'm gonna have to restart the camera, where big box stores were able to pretty much do okay. But our small businesses was not doing okay. And it was very difficult, for them. And there was some businesses that were literally, beginning to close their doors and say, okay, that's it. We're out of business. And that's just, it's terrible because there are some people who literally base their entire livelihood on, being able to have their business. That's all they have in life. And I understand and I sympathized greatly with that. So it was kind of difficult. I knew it was difficult and I felt very bad. And of course, at that point it was flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. And we did that, the curve was flattening. And then of course they opened everything back up. And the one thing that kind of got me is, well, yeah, you open things back up, cases are going to go up some. And so I guess what I'm saying is when I look at it now, and I do see these cases because I do hear a lot of people, and even my dad is one of those people who says, well, this many people have died in this many cases. And well, yeah, we did. He's like, it's going up. It's going up. Well, yeah, it's went up because we opened back up. And of course, was adamantly against opening things back up because he is in, such high risk. But at the end of the day, I get it. I mean, these big box stores were never forced to close, unless they chose. I know clothing stores and things like that. But when I say big box, I'm talking about Walmart and places like that, none of the grocery stores. And it just seemed a little, I don't know. It seemed a little suspicious and unfair to me. I'm not going to say it was any type of a conspiracy because I don't understand that. And I've listened to a lot of the conspiracies on this. And I mean, I don't know, but I can say that you cannot expect, unless the government is going to come in. Now, if they were going to look at small business, say Miss Sally down the road that owns a coffee shop, if they're going to look and say, hey, how much money was she bringing in profits per month? And we as a state or federal government is going to send her that much money every month so she can pay her employees, so that she can keep her doors open, so that this is of no financial, strain to her, then yeah, if they're going to do that, sure, keep her closed, but you cannot literally take a livelihood away from somebody like that. I don't know how you guys feel on that, but I understand it's important to protect people, but at the same time, do you know how bad off we would have been if our economy had truly crashed? Like a lot of people were saying, you stay closed within the next, so many weeks or whatever, we're going to have a complete crash of our economy. Can you imagine what that would have been like? And I don't know that we as a country would have ever pulled out of that. So that's where I've kind of been on that. And, to wear a mask, to not wear a mask. Gosh, I don't know. Here in Georgia, our governor will not mandate them. He fought even allowing municipalities to mandate it for a while. And then finally he said, okay, if a municipality wants to mandate it, I'm not going to fight that issue. But I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that, because I get it. Everybody, for a mask to truly be effective, everybody has to wear a mask. Now, I'll say this, okay? I will say this. Study how what was it, the 1918 flu, Spanish flu, and also, even back to, further back than that, heck, all the way back to, the Black Plague, people were putting on masks, right? And so we do know there's evidence that masks work, all right? But it's got to be worn right. For the mask to be effective, it must cover the nose and the mouth. Sorry, all the people that want to breathe out the top of your mask. And, like I said, I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just saying, I understand it's hard for some people, but it's hard for me to breathe in one of those masks. Okay. So I get that. I do. I get it. And I understand that there's some people who have traumas and things like that. I do think that all of a sudden there's many, I think now, because there are businesses here that are requiring masks. And here's the funny thing is they say they require them, but people may walk in the door with a mask and as soon as they get in, they take it off and they don't kick you out. So I don't know how they can say that's requiring it. But this is one thing I've noticed, and this irritates me so bad. And, as soon as mandated masks first started popping up, one of the first things I saw on Facebook was a push to let people know that the Americans with Disabilities Act protects you and they can't force you to wear a mask. Well, I'm sorry, people. Disabled people probably already knew that. But thanks for telling all the other people who just want to refuse to wear a mask what to say so they don't have to. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but there's a lot more disabled people than I believe there were last year, this time last year. All of a sudden, everybody has asthma, emphysema, COPD. They're a victim of trauma or, whatnot. And that just kind of blows my mind. And I'm sorry. I call BS on it. Okay. I call BS on it. Do I believe that we have rights in this country? Yep, sure do. Sure do. And I've seen that argument given a lot too about rights. And you do have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of all of those things, as long as, and I mean, I'm telling you, this is true, as long as your exercising of your freedom does not infringe upon someone else's constitutional rights. Okay, so then you have to get somebody to argue all those points. But it irritates me when I hear people throw around the term free speech, free expression, but yet they don't, they just say my rights, my rights, my rights, my rights. And this is my right, my right, my right. And they don't care. Their right could be completely infringing upon the rights for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness of somebody else, but they don't care because it's their right to do whatever in the world it is they're doing. And that's not your right. And that's not the way it was ever designed. It is, you have the right to these things as long as they don't infringe upon other people's exact same rights. In other words, okay, freedom of speech is what I'm exercising right now. You may completely disagree with me. And that's fine. Because guess what? You have freedom of speech also. You can comment, you can challenge me on different things. And I think that's fair. That's what America was built upon. And, freedom of speech is not, I have the right to say whatever I want to say and nobody else has a right to say anything. And that's kind of what I've been seeing more and more and more and more. This year, I think more so than any other year. It's almost like everybody's went crazy, and that just absolutely, it really boggles my mind how everybody just seems to have lost their crap all at the same time. Has anybody else noticed that 2020 has not only been a coronavirus, it's, a pandemic. It's been a situation of people in general have just went crazy. That's kind of what I've been seeing. And then, oh my goodness, then of course, the unfortunate events of George Floyd happened. And my heart goes out to that family, and I'm angry about the way that happened. I really am. As a Caucasian person, I'm very angry. And I mean, I would be very angry either way, but I don't believe necessarily that this is a race issue as much as it is a hateful heart issue. And I mean, I'll kind of speak on that just a little bit, but I believe that, I mean, I support our police. I do. But I support our police doing, working within the law and the legalities and being good stewards. They're being given a very, very big responsibility to take care of us and, to serve and protect. And I expect them to take that very seriously. And I feel like any officer who does not should be held accountable, 100% accountable for those actions. And, when it comes to police brutality, when brutality is labeled and it's, seen to have taken place, that person needs, to be fired and also held to the same standards as any other citizen for committing, a crime. Because I trust, I want to trust all law enforcement in the sense of, that they're going to do what's right always and protect. And I know some don't, and I'll be the first one to say that. Now, in saying that, I also want to say that I think this current push for defunding is insane. I don't think when they're saying defunding, I mean, I've kind of tried to read up on it. I don't think they mean necessarily not having police. I know a lot of people made it sound that way, but I just don't believe. You cannot. Okay, I'm going to put it the best way I can think, because I want to make sure nobody misunderstands me and what my beliefs are on this, because I know it's a very, very hotbed in America right now. I mean, I know it is. And maybe, I mean, I don't know what's going on in other countries, but I know it's a hotbed here in America. I think that our law enforcement officers should be held to very, very high standards. And if those officers break the law and go outside their scope of practice, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That is my belief. However, the people who are screaming for defunding and all these other things, I mean, I've been reading these things that say, police officers in different areas, they can't use tasers anymore. They can't use tear gas. They can't use rubber bullets. They can't use their any of these things that they're given that, they're in different areas. It's popping up. They can't do it. They can't do it. They can't do it. Well, I'm sorry. If I was a police officer, I would walk off and leave my job. I mean, I'm sorry. You take my ability to protect myself away from me. I know some people will say it's not, a police officer's job to protect himself. Well, yes, it is. He is a person who has a family at home, and he does have a job to do. But if this police officer runs up against a bad apple, and this bad apple decides to take on this police officer, it is not fair to say, well, he knew the dangers before he became a police officer. Are you serious? Yes, he knew the dangers before he became a police officer. He knew the dangers of being caught in crossfire and things like that, and possibly losing his life or dying in a wreck from a high-speed chase. Yeah, he knew that kind of stuff. But no, you can't say that this person, because I'm sorry, if that same bad apple decides to come up to my house and do the exact same thing to me, I have a right to defend myself, really by any means necessary, if it comes to the point that my life's in danger. But you're going to take that away from a police officer. No, that's ridiculous. And it's it's getting out of hand. And that's just another situation of what I'm saying. America has gone crazy. Okay. 2020 has just been but Jeezies. It's been something else. It truly has. And I don't know. I hope we can come back from this. I really do, as a country and everything. But it's starting to, I don't know. And have you guys, I'm sure have heard the jokes and things like that you see on TV where people are calling people Karens because they, have something to complain about everything. I want to see the manager. I want to do this. I want to do that. Just blah, 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 blah. Karens have come out of the woodwork this year. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And I don't know that I've ever seen it be this bad. And maybe some of you will say, oh yeah, it was already this bad. But I never really realized that it was this bad. And and maybe I just didn't pay enough attention to it because, things were kind of like, going on it for everybody or whatever. Maybe 2020 did hit and things started happening. And maybe that's another situation of us just, paying closer attention now. But I don't know. People are just rude. I mean, all the way around rude. And it's driving me crazy. And everybody is into everybody else's business. Have you noticed that? That's something else that I've noticed about this year is that everybody is in everybody else's business. Everybody wants to tell everybody else what they should be doing and how they want to do it. And this is from everything. I mean, for goodness sakes, if you've got any amount of friends, if you're on Facebook and you have any amount of friends on Facebook, just look through your face. Just read your Facebook. You've got people who are saying that you're a terrible person because you won't wear that mask. And you've got people saying you're whatever because you want to have a gun and you're this and it's just, this year's been so crazy. And I just don't remember. I don't know. I don't know. Not to this extent. And there's so much anger and hatred going on in the world. And I think it is stemmed from all of our anxieties that we've had from, between COVID and, the things that has happened in society with the police and what they call Antifa or BLM or, whatever, different groups are being called. I know there's all kinds of different ones. But I think that's fueling anxieties in people, and people are starting to react to that, and they're reacting very negatively. And there's just so much hate and anger, and it really breaks my heart because truthfully, I'm not a hateful person. I like to be loving and carefree and things like that. I don't like being stressed. I don't do well with stress. If you've been subscribed to my channel for any length of time, you know that me and anxiety and stress don't mix. I have panic attacks. I have serious neurological issues, and I can't deal with that type of thing. And I try to separate myself from it, but I can't. And let me tell you why I can't. I know several people are like, yeah, you can. You ignore it. And, yeah, sure. But let me tell you, and I don't know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Okay. I have no idea what's going on in your neck of the woods, but I'll give kind of an idea what's going on here. Okay. People are all different races. I'm not picking on one race. I'm just saying people in general. When I say that, I'm saying truly everybody. They seem so anxious and so uptight that nobody's smiling at anybody, and nobody's being kind to anybody, and nobody is being respectful to anybody. I'm sorry if I'm okay. Here's an example. If I'm inside of a store and maybe I feel comfortable not wearing a mask. Okay. And this was before they become mandatory. When they became mandatory, I wore the mask. Okay. Before they were mandatory, if it was uncrowded and I wasn't having to be right up against someone, I did not wear a mask. But if I'm in a store and I've seen this and I've done this but I've seen other people do it and are the same situation for other people and they react totally different. I'm walking through a store, and I begin into an aisle or an area, and there is an elderly person in like a motorized wheelchair with a mask and everything on, and I do not have a mask. I would leave the aisle and go to another aisle, because that person, I could just assume, or I would wait further back. I would stay more than 6 feet away and wait until they finished what they were doing, because I assumed that they were obviously a high-risk group that was concerned for their health, and I should respect that. And I do feel that way. But there would be people who would just literally push right up on these elderly people who are trying to do their shopping. And it's just, that's so disrespectful to me. I mean, it's horrible. You know, it's deplorable, truly, in my opinion. And I would see people, you know, and I've seen this both in different things. I see people, you know, when things first started getting, you know, racially in the country, and the racial tensions and things started rising. I would see people who, you know, maybe I may see a group of white people or somebody who would kind of stare at those black teenagers in the store more than they ever did before. Okay. More. I've been very aware of, racism type things for a very long time, because my son had a best friend when we were living in South Georgia who was a person of color. He was a Black or African American boy, and he even called me mom, and he hung around even when Michael was not around. There was times where he would go to the grocery store with me and things like that. So I was very, very aware of the tensions and the stares and all that. And, you know, the way we used to kind of handle it is I would kind of be like, this is my son. Can't you see the resemblance and things like that, to kind of make the stares stop when I could feel the stares coming on. And I thought that it may be, you know, bothering my son's friend, my adopted son, as we always called him. So I was already very conscious of that, but all of a sudden I started seeing it more. And not only the Caucasian towards Black or Hispanic or, you know, any other Asian or whatever, I started seeing it in other races towards me or towards other people. And I'm like, are you serious? I've never done anything to anyone, you know, that I know of, that I can think of. And if I have, I'm very sorry for it, you know, and I want to make amends for that. But, you know, I would be in the grocery store, and here's an example. There was a Black female, and she was an older Black female, and she was looking through the some corn inside the grocery store. And I had purchased corn a couple times before that, and it was always what they call, like, I guess, the variegated corn. It wasn't all yellow on the inside. And I was curious, because truly I like that better. And you know, when I had bought it, it had said yellow corn, but I got it home and it wasn't. So I was kind of curious because I saw her breaking some open and looking at them. And, you know, I had even thought in the past that, you know what, maybe that's something I should do, is kind of pop these husk open a little bit, look inside, so I know what I'm getting before I get it. And that's what, you know, she was doing. And I asked her, I said, is it actually yellow corn, or is it variegated, or what is it? And she looked at me like I had committed some kind of a mortal sin just by speaking to her. I mean, there was so much anger that came over her face. And, you know, I can't even explain the feeling that came over me. I felt so uncomfortable, because all I was trying to do was, you know, be friendly, number one. And then finally, you know, I kind of thought, no, I'm not just walking away from this. Of course, I didn't say anything specifically to her to let her know how I was feeling. But what I did do was say, you know, I told her, you know, I just started the conversation. I was like, yeah, you know, I came in a while back and I bought this. It was variegated. And she kept looking at me like, why are you talking to me? You know what I'm saying? And almost like I was doing something wrong, or, I mean, I don't know, or maybe she was shocked, you know, I don't know what was going on in her mind. And I just wouldn't shut up. And as you guys know, I can talk. I can definitely talk. And I just would not shut up. I kept speaking to her and speaking to her and speaking to her. And do you know, finally, she finally kind of says, well, let me tell you how I cook these. And it works really well. And at that point, she started an open line of conversation with me. So I don't know. And I've had things like that happen several times. Recently, more. I mean, it drives me crazy because it makes me think that everybody is just like looking and expecting and waiting and watching. And I don't know. I was coming across a parking lot this was about 2 months ago at this point, I guess. It was pretty well in the heat of everything when things really started heating up. And I had came to the crosswalk, getting ready to walk into the store, and there was a car. For those of you who have Walmarts and have two entrances anyway to Walmart, so this was before they ever closed that other entrance down. I was actually coming up to the crosswalk. The other car was still pretty much in the crosswalk to the door further away from me. So I started across the crosswalk. Okay. And it was a little sporty car. And I mean, I could not see that far. I mean, my eyes aren't that good. So it's a little sporty car. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I start across. Well, all of a sudden, this car hit its gas and started coming very quickly towards me, at which point I start trying to walk even quicker, to get across the street or across the crosswalk. And then all of a sudden they swerve, to miss me. And I did, of course, I looked and I did see that it was a young African-American. I mean, he looked like a nice young African-American, but he glared at me as he was coming towards me. And there was an African-American lady who was walking down the sidewalk pushing a cart, and she didn't even react to this. And that just blew my mind. And I'm sure that things like this are happening to our African-Americans, our Hispanics, our Asians, and things like that also. So I'm not saying that this was, a situation of, racism, reverse racism, whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I do believe that the environment that we had been in caused that young man to act in that manner, maybe to intimidate, to scare, whatever. But the point I'm making is nothing like that had ever happened to me in my entire life until then. To see somebody who just so blatantly literally tried to scare the pee out of me, and that's hate in hearts. And that's what I'm seeing more and more this year than I've ever seen before. And it has me terrified for our community. And, right now, most children are being homeschooled because of the virus. I am terrified what is going to happen in our school systems as the children begin to return to school if this environment is allowed to continue. If someone, and when I say someone, I mean us, okay? We are the someones. If someone does not take a stand and does not advocate for, I'm not saying advocate for, equal rights. I do believe we all should have equal rights, but I'm not saying don any particular group's garb and go out and advocate for that. No, we need to I can't even speak now. We need to advocate for common human decency. Common human decency. That's what I believe. Regardless of the color of your skin or your religion or the nation that you came from or live in or, any of those kind of things. This is just about decent human decency. And if we don't advocate for it and if we don't fight for it, we're going to lose this country. and we're going to lose it so quickly. And excuse me, I am terrified that's the path we're on right now. And I'm so terrified that we are beginning to approach a point of no return with that, where I don't know that we'll ever be able to truly come back. And that scares me. It scares me for us. It scares me for our youth and our future in this country. We've always been a great country. And I'm scared. I am. We, as decent human beings, need to advocate for that decency, for love for all, for acceptance for all. You don't have, okay, and this is something that I've learned in my lifetime, and I hope this will resonate with someone somewhere. You don't have to agree with someone. You don't have to agree with what they say. You don't have to agree with the way they live their life, or what they do, or how they dress, or who they love, or what color they are. I mean, you can literally be a racist and still be decent to somebody. You know what I'm saying? You can hold those deep hatred in your heart, but you don't have to be mean to somebody, because I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I'm not saying you can't think however you want to think. You're free to think however you want to think. I can't control that. And there's no amount of laws or activism or anything else that's going to stop it. The hate in people's heart is always going to be there. I'm sorry. It always is. We're never going to get rid of the fact that some people just aren't good people. They're just not. And we're never going to be able to get away from that. There's always going to be biases, social biases, racial biases, religious biases, all of those, lifestyle biases. They're always going to be there. But the bottom line is, we don't have to treat people negatively because of our beliefs. And we do not have to alienate them because of those beliefs. And we definitely don't need to shame them for those beliefs or anything like that. All of this hatred and shaming and all this that's going on, it's making me sick. It's literally physically making me sick. You may not agree with what somebody thinks. You may not agree with anything I've said today. And I mean, I hope you know that everything I've said has been said with true love for humanity in my heart. Nothing I've said was meant in any kind of way, okay, other than be decent. Because, the bottom line is, we all have to live on this planet together, right? I mean, you've got to agree with me on that. I mean, in the absence of people just disappearing, we've all got to live on this planet together, correct? Right. I'm pretty sure I can get everybody on board with that. So, since we have to live in this world together, we can do that one of two ways. Truly, we can. We can live in a state of discord, where we're being rude to each other and mean to each other and non-understanding of each other, and bullheaded and uncompromisable, and all those types of adjectives I could throw at that. We could live like that. Or, at risk of sounding like I should have been born in the 60s, we can love each other. We can begin to practice care for each other. And, that's just something that I think, I don't know. If we don't do it, our children are doomed and damned. Okay, people, I'm just going to say it. And I know some of you may not have kids. Some of your kids may be grown, but you may have grandkids. Some of you may not have grandkids yet. or you may not have any, even if you don't have kids, maybe you have a sibling that has kids, or you have cousins, or you have somebody who has children. What are we leaving these people with? I mean, seriously, what are we doing? And I see all of these things being done in the name of activism. Activism. I hear it all the time. I hear that word so much. Protest. That's another one. And I watched a YouTube video yesterday, and I thought about it for a long while afterwards to see if I needed to change my opinion. And I decided no, I did not. But it was basically saying that, it basically said that violence is part of change. Really? I don't think it has to be. I think I can name many activists in the past who have gotten their point across non-violently, and changes were made due to the non-violent acts. Now, I'll also say that I thought that point was completely invalid that they made in this video, but they did say something else, and I believe this to be true. I do. It also said that change never happens by following the law. Sometimes it does. Okay, it does. And I am not advocating law breaking. I'm really not. I'm not advocating violence. And this is what I'm going to say. I mean, there's been a lot of looting and things like that that's happened. That hurt people. Okay, it is never, I don't care what you're trying to accomplish. It is never okay to hurt other people, ever. Not physically, not mentally, not financially. It's not okay to hurt other people for gain of any type. That's wrong. It's wrong. So I disagree in that aspect completely. And I think this person who made this, and it was a very big type production that I was watching. They needed to really explain what they were saying a little better. I think I understood what they were getting at. I mean, I think I did, but they didn't explain it, so I just kind of had to guess. And a lot of people aren't going to guess like I guess. They're just going to hear what they heard and take that at face value, and they're going to act. And that's just, now, there is time. It's just like when I was in junior high. Okay, give me a second, guys. Okay, there was a time when I was in junior high, and they decided that boys could no longer have long hair. And you got to understand, at the time when I went to junior high, boys wanted long hair. We were in the glamour rock era where you had, or an error may have been right in some people's opinion, where you had all these things, big hair bands and all of that. So the boys were kind of following suit. Well, we staged a walkout, and that's completely against school rules. It completely could get us in trouble, but we literally walked out and we marched to the Board of Education, and we stood peacefully in protest for that, because that day there was an attorney who was taken on the Board of Education on that very topic, and we walked out to show support for that attorney and the families that were fighting for that, because there had been a couple boys expelled from school, and we did that in solidarity. And guess what? They didn't suspend us. They didn't, expel us. Yeah, we got in-house suspension where we had to sit and stuff like that quietly, but nothing bad. And that is what I think he meant by sometimes laws have to be broken. In the past, you have seen people who have done, sit-ins. Maybe they have blocked an entrance to something and had to be physically removed. But that is breaking the law, yes. But it also brings attention to that. So I believe that is advocacy. If you block an entrance to somewhere and you don't leave when asked to leave, and they have to bring the police in. Well, as part of this, if it's a huge protest, as part of that happening, you've got the media there and attention's being brought to that. And when they get there to haul you away, you don't fight. You don't pull a knife. You don't pull a gun. you just put your arms together and let them handcuff you and take you to jail. Now, that's peaceful protest. That is breaking the law. And yes, I do believe that in some instances, that is the type of thing that's necessary. But it is never necessary to cause harm to someone, whether it be to them physically or to their business, which hurts them financially. It's just not okay. Anyway, I've really been on my soapbox today, have I not? I may lose bukus of subscribers over this video. And if I do, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. That is truly how I feel. However, if I have misspoken in any way or you don't disagree, feel free to leave me a comment down in the description and I will talk to you about it. I'm not going to argue with anybody, but I'll apologize if I said anything incorrectly. But I mean, I'm just worried. I'm worried about the world we live in today. There's too many people screaming injustice. There's too many people screaming. And I'm not saying injustice is always wrong. Okay. But I believe there's people screaming that have not been wronged. You know, just like I was talking about how many, all of a sudden, everybody is traumatized or everybody is disabled or whatnot. So they don't have to wear masks. So that's kind of what I'm saying about that. So everybody is all of a sudden, everybody's a victim. All of a sudden, everybody is looking to be offended. All of a sudden, people are angry. All of a sudden, this world is just, I'm so afraid. And I don't know if this is going on in other countries. So when I say world, I'm really referring to what's going on in this country and the things I'm seeing. But the bottom line is we need to love each other and we need to love each other hard. Our children need it. Our children deserve it. They deserve a better world than what we're building to leave for them right now. And if we as a community, as a country, do not pull together, all's going to be lost. I mean, within the next several years, this is not even going to be a country worth living in. So I'm going to stop here for right now, and I'm going to finish this picture off camera. I've taken up an hour and 17 minutes of your time. I hope you felt it was well spent. I'm going to try to do these color and chats a little more often. Like I said, I think that I think that's a really good thing. And that's what I want to start focusing on. I want to give you guys a chance to get to know me again. So much has happened and this year's just been crazy. And I guess I maybe did need to hop on my soapbox and kind of let some things out. But, you know, I didn't mean to offend anyone. And I hope I didn't say anything that was offensive because I don't think I did. If you feel that I did, please let me know. My email's in the description or whatever. But in the description of the video, I will link this book in case anyone's interested, as well as just a link to Jane Hankins on Amazon as well, because I do really love her art. But thank you guys for coming. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I may need your subscription after this. Ring the bell to be notified of future videos as they are uploaded. Also in the description is links to the Facebook group. And I do not speak for the other admins on that Facebook group or Renee here on Coloritaville. I do not speak for her whatsoever. She can only speak for herself. So I just want to throw that out there. But I had a great time talking to you guys today. And until next time, peace, love, and happy coloring. Spread the love. Bye, guys.